I thrive in these types of environments of collaboration and coaching. So I think that's going to be some of the next steps for me.
Hi, Matt, and hi, everyone joining us in this chat today. I am joined by Matthew Anderson, who will be launching Matthew Anderson Properties. And how are you doing today, Matt?
I am doing good. How are you?
I am doing awesome. Matt, I just wanted to touch base with you where you are in your career and where things are moving, because you have been in the Orlando area as a realtor for a couple of years and it looks like you're just blowing up. So I need to know a couple of things. Is it okay if we go over some info?
Yeah, I'm an open book.
Excellent.
Tell me.
I know that your background is in education, so tell me what inspired you to start a career in real estate?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I always thought growing up that I wanted to be in the education field. I wanted to get, my PhD originally in criminology, and that's kind of where I thought everything was trending. But I think it all stemmed back from, customer service and customer relationships. And that's kind of what led me into real estate, because I was serving a table of realtors in New Jersey, and we were bantering back and forth, and they were like, have you ever thought about getting into real estate? And I was like, absolutely not. And they basically said, okay, well, we will pay for your class. I need you to get your license in New Jersey, and if you don't like it, then you don't have to pursue it. So long story short, I got licensed in Jersey. 3 months later, I moved to Florida, and I got licensed in Florida and took off from there.
That's awesome. Well, that's a big leap to take, so
yeah,
it's pretty brave of you.
For sure.
Why do you feel like now is the right time to go on your own?
I feel like I've thought about it a few times, but I don't think I ever fully had the confidence of, okay, if I go out on my own, I never wanted to go back into serving, after I left and went on my own, because when I first started into real estate, it was all about, okay, I need to be financially stable to know that I can put everything into real estate. So I focused on, okay, doing everything for real estate during the day and serving at night. So once I, continued to build my business and, have more resources, I think that's what kind of built my confidence over the last 2 years into my 3rd year in real estate, being able to say, okay, I'm good. I don't have to worry about, going back into serving, and I feel confident about, the projection of where I
am. And talking about going forward and trying to not take step backs into your professional career, when you started doing real estate in Florida full time, what were some of those challenges that you faced that made you kind of hesitate between leaving that other job and going full time into real estate? What was going through your mind, and what were those things?
So I think a lot of the hesitations that I had, but other people have too, is real estate can be such an up and down business, right? Like you see it, and you work in the industry as well. Like we can have good and bad months, and I think a lot of it stems from having that financial security and also having that support system, because financial stability, I think, is one of the biggest things to have in real estate. But not only that, like it's having resources and people, by your side that you can talk to, because if you don't have a team or you don't have some of these, relationships, it can be a really lonely business. So I think those are the two things that, I wanted to make sure I had concretely, which was resources, relationships, and financial stability to be confident not to have to go back.
And talking about those relationships, what resources and what relationships have you leaned on so far to get you to where you are today?
Well, I think my team that I departed from played a big part. The resources that my team provided, from having a few people specifically that mentored me, was huge. There was a few resources, just overall platforms that really helped me with developing relationships with leads and growing my business organically, because I came down here with nothing. I had no sphere, I had nothing to lean on. So internet leads was something huge for me to be able to, get that financial ball rolling. So what I really leaned heavily on was the people that were on my team that really had my back, and also some of those resources provided, whether it was like a CRM, whether it was different integrations, like different platforms like that, is what, you know, really helped me.
Okay. Getting you from day one to today, what are some strategies or what practices have you made part of your daily life so that you can be effective consistently?
Well, number one, my calendar looks like a rainbow flag because time blocking for me was huge. And that stemmed from the customer service industry too, because I had to make sure I had enough time to do all my follow-up with leads, and then I needed to go serve that night. So something for me was, number one, you have to love what you're doing, like you really need to, but the consistency, like you mentioned, is everything. So having time blocking and having hours like 11 to 1, I know is strictly going to be for X, you know what I mean? That stuff, and you know, utilizing those tools is definitely what helps.
Okay, sounds awesome. So time management sounds like
time management
up here.
Absolutely everything. Absolutely everything.
What trends do you see shaping the real estate market in the future? And I'm sorry. What trends do you see shaping the real estate market in the near future? And I know that we are going through a very unusual pattern of ups and downs. So what do you think it's going to be looking like?
Well, I think it's going to be huge for newer agents in particular, because we do have, and I'm not going to dive deep on this, but we do have the NAR settlement that's coming into play, right? Like we have,
big deal.
Yeah, we have commissions that are being negotiated on the buyer side. But truth be told, commissions were always negotiated. It's not something that's new. So I think what we're going to see is really trying to, you know, paint the truth of what goes on in our industry and kind of stay away from, you know, the false narratives that are put on social media and everything about, you know, the negativity behind our industry. But I think education is going to be a huge thing, and I think what's going to shape our industry in the next like 6 to 12 months is going to be heavily, you know, impacting the newer agents, because they need to be able to overcome these hurdles, talk about these objections that, you know, clients are going to be asking about. So I think that's what's going to be some of the main pivotal moments.
Yeah. It sounds like transparency with your clients is pretty much number one when it comes to communicating about changes and about what may be different coming up.
Yeah, and I mean, we see it so often where, and I think newer agents that are getting in the industry, they want to make money, and some people that do it part-time view it as like a quick buck. However, we need to be relationship oriented, because, you know, I tell people all the time, I don't care when you buy, I don't care when you sell, you can do it whenever you want, but I want your business moving forward because I want you to tell everyone about me that you had a great experience. So I think, you know, that's going to be huge for people to really focus on relationships, transparency, exactly like you said, and then let everything else kind of fall into place.
Talking about building relationships with your clients, how do you build strong relationships with your business partners, and how do you build and keep your network?
Yeah, so I think that's something else that's really got me to where I am. My vendor partners, from, you know, Ivan at Homespire Mortgage to the Orlicki Group, all of my partners have been pivotal for me, because it's not just me that gets people to closing, right? Like, you have your lenders, you have insurance, you have inspectors, you have your photography and videographer, your transaction coordinator, all of these things.
Company.
Yeah, I mean, the list goes on. But you need to have those core group of people. And I think too often we have people in this industry that want to leverage other companies and try to get funds from them without like developing that relationship first. So I think what we need to focus on is having that core group of people that you're loyal to, because they're the ones that are really going to help your business. Because not only can I fall back on, you know, that group of people that I have really good relationships with, I can call my lenders, I can call my title company and talk to them about issues I'm having. And that's huge because it's not only going to keep your clients happy, it's going to get those transactions to close.
I mean, and not only that, it just makes it so much easier to work with somebody that knows how you work so that they can address issues as they arise, because things will come up. And isn't it easier to just work with somebody that you have worked before to be able to get that sale to close all the way to the end?
Right, and like I said, and that also leads to transparency, like it's been like that theme. You have that transparency with those individuals and you know exactly how they work, how they operate, and it's just a more efficient process.
Awesome. You left your team recently and are going solo. How difficult was it for you to make that decision, to communicate that to your team leader, and how did it turn out?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was extremely difficult because I still give credit to my team for getting me to where I am today. I mean, if I didn't join my team, I wouldn't be there or be here and sitting here right now. So I would say one of the most difficult things was leaving some of the agents that I mentored, because when I was on my team, I handled lead flow for the last 6 months or so, and also did a lot of coaching with agents on the team. And I don't want to lose those relationships. So my goal is obviously to maintain them, but that collaboration is what made the decision, I think, super difficult for me. And telling my team leader about leaving, I think he kind of knew that I was on that trend of going on my own because I was prepared and ready for it. It obviously wasn't ideal, if I could stay and it made sense, I would have stayed. But I'm fortunate that we were able to leave, that I was able to leave amicably, and he's been super helpful to help me leave and go through that transition.
That's awesome. I think it's also part of the natural progress of when you learn and you gain experience, that there comes a point where there's only so much growth that you can be in one particular setting, as and you don't want to limit yourself to that. So you want to branch out and have the limits that you want to set for yourself rather than the limits that have been set for you by a team.
Yeah, and I think one thing I've learned from being on a team too is, like, I originally thought that I would never want to leave, that like, hey, I want to stay on this team forever because of the relationships I built. But from talking to other people and other leaders in our industry, especially within EXP, it's like leaving a team and growing is like the natural process of things. And it almost speaks to the team itself, that it's helped mold you and get you to where you are, so you have the ability to leave. Because if people are just staying on the team and never leaving, like, that can also be a reflection of the agents not being prepared to go on the road. So I think it's double fold.
Absolutely. I know that you are a whiz in technology, and there are many tools that you use to keep in touch with your clients and to keep your vendors and your business partners communicating and together. What role does technology play in your daily operation, and what are the specific tools that have been indispensable to your growth?
Yeah, so in no way is any of this sponsored, but but I love Follow Up Boss. They are like my go-to CRM. I literally, if it doesn't happen in Follow Up Boss, it didn't happen. Everyone I mentor, everyone I coach, I talk about that too. I'm like, look, like everything should run through this system, and different integrations like Ylopo, and being able, because there's a fine balance of technology and relationships and still being human and having that human-to-human contact, because I think, there's so much AI out there right now where you can create like a fake version of yourself to talk and all of this stuff. And I never want to use technology to the point where I'm not having the, belly-to-belly conversations. So I use, even though I'm not a real like tech person with my background, I use, Ylopo, Follow Up Boss. Texting Betty has been something that's great. There's like automated texting that you can kind of integrate. Systems like that has been super helpful to stay in touch with my clients, because I want to make sure that they're not missing opportunities, but also giving them the best service possible. But at the end of the day, I'm one person. I'm still struggling with my business and my personal life. So leveraging those tools is slowly helping me, create more of that like work-life balance.
That's awesome. And talking about work-life balance, how do you manage how demanding real estate is with your personal life? I think we have one of those jobs where it's hard for our customers to see limits of like business hours and business days because we make ourselves accessible very easily at weird hours. How do you how do you manage that?
I don't.
Okay.
It is a work in progress. If anyone has any, advice, including yourself, I would love to hear it. Because I still struggle with that because I had the mentality, stemming back from the service industry, like I don't want to I always want to be the first person to answer the phone because, coming from leads and internet leads and that type of business generation, if you don't answer the phone, someone else will. So I've always thought to myself, and this might not be the right way of thinking, but I've always thought to myself, like, until I can start turning down business, I'm always going to answer the phone. It can be at 10 o'clock at night, but I want to develop such a core group of people that I work with, and then I maybe can start setting some of those boundaries. It's not maybe the healthiest thing what I'm doing right now, but it's a work in progress.
Okay, and it's worked for you so far, so we'll work on that. Yeah. We'll work on those boundaries.
Yeah.
And we're all familiar with your Tuesdays treadmill talk. So talking about work and life balance, what other stuff do you do to keep yourself healthy and available?
Yeah, so my treadmill talks, love them. It's becoming I originally wanted to do them every Tuesday, and I've slowly learned that doing it every Tuesday may not be the most feasible thing because then I bug the hell out of my videographer, and it's just also a lot of filming to do. So it's become kind of like an every other week thing, but I always want to do things a little bit different and be more creative because I feel like people are so tired of hearing the realtor in the suit talk about, you ready to buy a house? Like, no one cares. You know what I mean? Like, be relatable, and that's kind of why I started doing treadmill talks. But other things that I've tried to do to keep myself kind of in the right headspace has been to travel to different places even if I'm working. So as obnoxious as this sounds, a month or two ago I went to London and worked from London for a week or two, which is what's a benefit to our industry, right? Like, we can work remote from places. Was I able to just sit around and do nothing? No, I had to work, but I think what helped me with my headspace was being able to get out of my everyday environment, go somewhere else, and almost have that as a refresh, even though, I still had to work at the same time.
Yeah, I think the brokerage that we work for definitely has the tools for us to be able to just
everything.
Open a laptop or get a phone line and be able to do whatever it is that you need to do in the middle of London or beachside or whatever it is that you need.
Right.
There are other young people that are looking to make decisions in their lives and considering careers in real estate. What kind of advice can you give them?
You called me young, that's great.
I mean, I call myself young too.
Well, I'm almost at 30, so we're getting there. But advice I would give, and one of my mentees, Sarai and Melody, I've told them as well, is if you're considering real estate, number one, I think you should have another job. Everyone's like, no, you need to go full in, all real estate. It's that's not realistic. You can have a savings of $5,000 to $10,000 and still blow through that, and then where are you at? So I think first is have another job that can work with real estate, right? Whether it's serving at night, flexibility on hours, transparency with your boss, those things I think are important. And it's also being consistent and being ready to work 10, 12-hour days. Because you're gonna need to do those things if you want to leave behind whatever that other job is and get into the industry full time. So I think, consistency and financial security are the top two things I would tell people to focus on when they're considering getting into the industry.
Awesome. And what common mistakes should they avoid?
Oh, common mistakes. I've made 3,000. I think because a lot of people see, things like Selling Sunset and some of these other shows and these narratives about realtors that you jump into the industry. I saw a reel the other day and it was like, oh, I want to be a luxury agent. And they had their car was like an Acura and their team leader or something printed out like a BMW sticker and gave them a Gucci bag and was like, okay, now you're a luxury realtor. So I think it's really focus on learning and maybe not mistake. So the mistake would probably be don't fall into that mold of needing to necessarily look the part right away and develop your branding and do all these things. Like focus on soaking everything in from other people that are experienced and get your business going that way. Because I've seen it, people join our team, join my old team or join the industry in general, and their first thing is making a logo for themselves. You don't even have a business to sell your logo to. So I think that's the mistake, that you're not focusing on learning about the industry first. And another, not mistake I made, but I was delayed in doing it, is learn about the different aspects of a transaction, whether it's the insurance side of things, whether it's the lending side of things. You want to be the most well-rounded agent, because at the end of the day, I always reference Ivan or Allison and Oliver with the Orlicki Group if I have, really more in-depth lending questions, but you should know the basics and be able to go and say, hey, this is what your monthly payment looks like. This is what insurance is going for. So be a well-rounded agent and start that early.
Awesome. Moving forward, and now that you are a solo agent, what are your plans to continue to grow and improve your career?
I think my plans right now, even into the end of the year, is really to focus on Matthew Anderson Properties. I want to be able to really develop my brand as a resource and community group. The first thing that I did when I decided to leave was, okay, how can I bring together a group of independent agents that can get the resources that they need and also have the collaboration without feeling alone, so they can maintain those relationships and not feel alone and not end up leaving the industry. So my focus right now is continuing to develop that group of people and let them know, like, hey, if you're an independent agent, or even if you're on a team and you think you're ready for that growth, I'm not saying to go out and leave your team. I'm saying that there are options available for you to succeed that you might not have thought about. So that's my focus right now. And into 2025, I'm going to be launching a mentorship program as well. Right now I'm doing just kind of like mentorship for agents that are within my brokerage, but having a mentorship program is definitely something that I really like. I thrive in these types of environments of collaboration and coaching, so I think that's going to be some of the next steps for me.
That sounds awesome. How do you think your work impacts people more than just buying or selling a house?
It's hard to say, I feel like, how it's necessarily impacted them, because I don't think I have enough conversations, I think, and maybe that's on me. I don't have enough conversations with my clients to say, like, hey, since buying, how's this affected you? But what I will say is staying in touch with almost all my clients and them messaging me saying, like, this is the best decision that I've ever made, or, thank you for pushing me and getting me through uncomfortable situations. Those things are, I think, what has been the most gratifying experience, and that tells me I'm doing the right thing. But I think sometimes the most gratifying thing, knowing that my work is making a difference in my industry, is just providing information. Like, I've had so many clients that ended up being buyers or sellers just because they've reached out to someone for information and it was a sales pitch on the other side every single time. No one wants a used car salesman. So when people reach out to me and they're like, hey, I'm not ready to buy yet, cool. I want you to have the resources you need so you know what to do when you are ready to buy. So I think, that's the most gratifying thing to me, to be able to educate, relate, and then, put that innovation into practice.
Awesome. And talking about those experiences with your customers, is there any one particular transaction that is memorable, that has taught you the most, that you will never forget for a reason? And can you tell us about it?
Yes, there's one that sticks out. It was, well, there's a few, but one that I immediately thought about is my client Nadine. Number one, she's like my biggest supporter. Anytime like she door knocks, she goes and hands out my business cards. She's on different groups on Facebook to go and put my name out if people need to buy or sell. But what I loved about her, and Ivan helped me on this transaction, is she was denied her first loan and wasn't able to buy at all. And Ivan and I put together a plan for her over the next, it was like probably like 6 to 8 months it took to really get her where she needed to be to buy. But it was so fulfilling for me to have someone that felt so defeated to be able to kind of pick her up and say like, look, we got you. And 8 months later, she bought a new construction house. So I think that's been like one of the most memorable transactions for me, because it wasn't just a transaction, it turned into a friendship and a relationship.
That's amazing. Well, congrats on that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for chatting with us, and thank you for listening to our conversation today. And I cannot wait to see what's going to happen with Matthew Anderson Properties coming up.
I appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Lito.
Thank you.